doing a session, a very small brief about Professor for our students and for some of the attendees who joined from different parts of India. Professor Sadagopan is currently the director, president of IIIT Bangalore, a PhD granting university, and IIITs represent a set of new generation universities started in India in the late 90s with special focus on IT. IIIT Bangalore is one of the first such institutes. As the first director of IIIT Bangalore, he is envisioning, planning, and executing the growth of this institute, uh, and that is counted as one of the premier institutes in India. Prior to that, Sir spent his time at IIM Bangalore and as a faculty at IIT Kanpur. He's a visiting faculty at many institutes in India. He's been a mentor for the IIITs in India, and also played a key role in establishing IIIT Bhubaneswar and Raipur. Some of the other facts are, if you all have wondered how IMPS works, now the base on which GPay, Paytm, PhonePe, and many other apps works, Sir was on the founding board of NPCI, the National Payments Corporation of India. He also has taught at Rutgers. He's a fellow of IEE UK, the Computer Society of India, and is a Fulbright fellow, and decorated with very many awards. If some of you have visited Tirumala, he is the architect of the Sudarshanam queue system and the e-Hundi. And if you have heard, all of you would have heard of Tata Motors, Indian Oil, Ashok Leyland, HCL, Sundaram Finance, BHEL, Tata Elxsi, Microsoft Research India, Bescom, ICICI Ventures, and many top banks like Syndicate Bank, IndusInd Bank, Canara Bank, Vijaya Bank, and also the Indian Overseas Bank. And also he's also credited with also making the Sanskrit font for the computers, and which he co-created along with CDAC and Professor Kashyap, and many innovative IT projects. His advisory in startups also is very huge, right from advising the founding teams of Big Basket, or be it Meritrack, Krishnan Ganesh, and many more, and also the founding team of Infosys. Sir has had many influences that he has left, and many people he has taught. Thank you very much graciously for accepting this, and over to you, sir.
Okay, so thank you. Okay, Karthik is always extra kind to me. So thank you, Karthik. Thank you for your kind words. And I wanted something very simple that, he has kind of circulated to more number of people. I know that about 100 of you are kind of getting incubated, trained, or mentored, whatever you call it, as part of the startup camp, thinking of startup as an option. Many of you are already starting up. You are in the early stage. So one is, I do want to know what is that you are doing. So somewhere along, after my brief about 20 minutes or so, we have chosen 10 of you randomly, and then we would want to talk to each one of you. I want each one of you to tell me in 1 minute what is that you are doing and what is exciting. And my 20 minutes is very simple. I don't have any slides by design. What I want to share with you is something that is very quietly happening. I think it is important for you, the current generation, to know. What really happened was something like this, that, India is a very unusual country, right? We had, a country where talent was always kind of appreciated, admired, and the society valued it. So what happened was, talent has always been in large numbers in this country. And, just almost about close to 90 years back, we had a Nobel Prize winner in science right in this town, called Dr. C.V. Raman, right? So what happened is, people have been we did not have opportunities to pursue higher education. So because particularly one country called United States was kind of welcoming, went to United States for higher education. It actually started from 50s, little bit, and 60s and 70s. I belong to that generation. When we all went, Of course, relatively we are small in number, a few dozens, at best hundreds. And we worked for some of the finest institutes, and most of my classmates, I happened to be an outlier. I was one of the, out of the about 250 of my batch, I think I am the only person who came back, or maybe one more person. Okay, so a significantly large number stayed back, and they worked for some of the finest institutions, including MIT and Stanford and Berkeley and Purdue and Georgia Tech, etc. And they were contributing to the global knowledge discovery. So they were working for the global corporations and making a difference to the planet. I think they're continuing to do a great job. And many of them also joined companies like IBM. And so they contributed to the MNCs, the global corporations' wealth. So they contributed to the global countries, they contributed to the global economy, they contributed to the global corporations. Great job. But something happened, I would say 70s, 80s, we continued. Around 90s, a small shift started happening for the next about 25 years, I would say until 2015 or so. What happened was Indians continued to work for multinational corporations, Microsoft to Oracle to IBM to General Motors to Boeing, etc. But not everybody had to go to United States. Many of them were actually working in Bangalore and Pune and Hyderabad and Noida, etc., Bhubaneswar even, okay, working for global corporations and generating wealth for them, a little bit of wealth also for this country. But they were in India, but still working for the global corporations and solving what we call the global problems, okay? And problems that are actually needed to be solved for people around the globe. Quite often, they were actually not solving problems of this country, what I call India's problems. So I think Karthik put it as Indian problems. I actually use the word India's problem. And what only recently, I'm finding it very interesting that finally the third stage, starting from, I would say, last about a decade or so, I think I'm very impressed with you guys, the youngsters, people who are what I call 30 minus, people who are less than 30. You are the people who actually kind of make my heart really feel so good, because you are finally solving. I belong to a generation where we did not solve India's problem. Even my first set of students did not solve India's problem. But you guys are solving India's problem. And much more interestingly, you are solving India's problems through an entrepreneurial route. That is the reason why I feel so excited to meet you. Okay. Let me give a series of examples to kind of drive home the point. Something which you might know, something you may not know. Okay, I'll go a little bit, I would say about 15, 20 years back. Okay, this is something which many people in India do not know. Okay, there is a company called Infosys. Within the company, there was a small, and many of you would know that there is a bank which makes proud, which is a pride of Karnataka. It is called Canara Bank. Okay, so Canara Bank always had a good IT department, and the Canara Bank IT department folks and Infosys together created something called Finacle. Okay, why is it that Finacle got created in this country? Because all over the world, people were actually using core banking systems which were running on mainframe systems. So one, they were kind of difficult to change. Second, they were fairly expensive because mainframe systems themselves were expensive. And quite often, they were actually not tuned for what is called the make and break net called internet. You know, they were built for what is called the dedicated networks. That is the reason why those networks were also expensive. And India as a country had this unusual stuff, partly because of political reasons. We went ahead and started branches all over. By normal business sense, those branches do not make sense. But they did make sense because it connected many, many Indians. So what we had was, we had a large number of public sector banks with a large branch networks and hardly any automation. And here was a case where we can kind of almost jump the branch automation and go to the bank automation, the whole bank could be computerized really fast using a solution called Finacle. And that has been a phenomenal success. I have been personally kind of involved with that. I used to be on the board of Bank of India. That happens to be the first large-scale implementation for Finacle. And the ones that happened, I know even the way it happened was interesting. That was the first time when an Indian public sector bank gave a contract to an MNC. So Hewlett Packard was given a contract for 610 crores for over 5 years. In fact, many people wrote about it. Everybody talks about outsourcing. Here is a case where an Indian public sector bank outsources to an MNC called Hewlett Packard. Okay. And then suddenly you find that I think all of you probably would not even know how the bank branches were prior to the core banking stuff. Today, you can do banking without going to a bank. At least in our time, we could never do banking without going to the bank. And something similar happened. A bunch of people who were actually working for something called Citicorp, and they thought that they had something interesting. They also thought that they can make a similar solution. And that solution actually kind of used the networks even more imaginatively than Finacle, simply because the people there actually had exposure to outside. And that became another phenomenal success. Oracle acquired that company. That was the first time when an Indian company was acquired for $1 billion worth. Nowadays you keep hearing about the unicorns and stuff like that. It is almost 14 years back. And what is interesting for you people to know is Finacle happened in Bangalore, iFlex happened in Bangalore, and then TCS did something called banks. And then there is a company called Kindle, which actually got the name change now, which is also an ITPL. And these four together account for more than 50% of the bank accounts in the planet today. iFlex and Finacle both have almost 15%. So I think you should be proud, every Bangalorean can be proud that the product cooked in this country actually account for half the bank accounts in the whole planet, right? And so that is something which you should know. But I think let me kind of shift the gear by another about 10 years. Something interesting happened. So many of you use this Uber and Ola. And you might actually you might think that, look, what is Ola? It's an Indian company, but maybe they copied Uber. I'm not saying that they did not, but, see, that way, you can say that Amazon did e-commerce and Kmart also does e-commerce. Everybody does e-commerce. You can't call them copy, right? But they actually do some repurposing. But what I want to emphasize today is something which is more interesting. And I don't know how many of you are from Bangalore. If you are from Bangalore, if you are in Jayanagar, JP Nagar area, you might know there is something called Ragiguda Temple. Next to Ragiguda Temple was a small company. You would have seen a big board called Taxi for Sure. Okay, Aprameya and Raghunandan, and of course, the first development team had 3 of our own alum. Okay, Taxi for Sure did something which is very different from what Uber did. Of course, Taxi for Sure got acquired by Ola. But what is important is the solution that Taxi for Sure developed is actually benefiting the whole planet, but it started with the need for an Indian solution. Okay, so let me explain. Uber has been around. So many of us know the early days of Uber, the founder, etc., etc. So that was primarily a convenience product. It makes a lot of difference. But there is something which is very truly an Indian need. What is the true Indian need? I'll give you an example. Here is a software engineer, a man or a woman, and she is staying with her parents or his parents, and his father or mother has some chronic health issue, and once in a month or once in 2 months, the father or mother has to be taken to a hospital or to a doctor, and then wait for 2-3 hours, and then brought back home. Normally, what you would have done is you would have taken a days off, okay, drove the father to the health center or to the doctor, waited and called back. But Taxi for Sure gave a very interesting solution. This is something which is very Indian. So what you do is that On the day of the doctor's appointment, the son or the daughter would have gone to the office at 8:30. Around 11 o'clock, they realize there is an appointment at 12. They will book a taxi on Taxi for Sure. And Taxi for Sure not only shows which are the taxis which are available, which you can book. Once you book, it actually shows the face of the driver who is actually driving it. And that you can copy and send it by WhatsApp to your father or mother. So by the time the taxi reaches home and sends a message to the father or mother, the father or the mother, as they climb down from this apartment, they know the face of the taxi driver. Because that is the taxi that my son has booked. They have the comfort. So with that one, they will match up and come back. Once again, it's very Indian. So the taxi fare is not paid by the mom or the dad, but the taxi fare is paid by the son or the daughter. So they get out of the taxi, and as soon as they get out of the taxi, so son gets the message. So the son does not have, daughter does not have to waste their time. They have the comfort of taking care of their parents. The parents know with the comfort that it is something arranged by the son or the daughter, including the same driver whose face they can match, and they don't have to worry about the payment. Okay. And this was not there in Ola. After acquisition, Ola had it, and this is something which even Uber offers now. Okay. So this is my pet example, because right now, right before my eyes, this was cooked. Okay. So that is something which I thought I will share. Okay. I'll take two more examples, then I will open it up for questions. And many of you would know, I understand that you all had listened to Madan Padki, right? Merit Track. Okay. Merit Track is an interesting Indian solution. This country has the disease called entrance exam for everything, right? Entrance exam for KG, entrance exam for high school, entrance exam for middle school, entrance exam for JE, PhD, and MTech. All through entrance exam for then of course joining the services called IAS. So entrance exam is big deal. Okay. And then how do you build an online examination system? And this country also, when Meritrack started, it was slightly different. You know, in a sense, this country does not have the luxury that everybody will have their laptop. So something was available, you know, internet cafes or something which are very Indian, right? We had lots of internet cafes, and a company called Reliance had set up a large number of Indian cafes, internet cafes all over the country. And then Meritrack could actually do online entrance examination, do it fairly well, do it reliably, and they even did some interesting stuff. You want to be sure that, you know, the same person who took the exam is the same person, there is no impersonation. So they could actually do some remote surveillance cameras. My colleague Chandrasekhar is also there. So we were the first to actually use Meritrack solution. Then IIMs picked it up, then IITs picked it up, you know, CAT, GATE, JE, inline, everybody went for that solution. Of course,
Madan,
now Meritrack is.
Madan is here, sir. In fact, Madan
Madan is there.
Here.
Oh, what a pleasure. What a pleasure, Madan. I didn't know that. Okay, so thank Madan. Okay. I think you gave such a wonderful lecture. I can't match even half of your stuff. Okay. So thank you. But I think what is interesting is that I think your generation is really looking at solution problems around and trying to solve. I still remember my American friends used to tell me, teach people who teach in Stanford and MIT. He said, look, you know, we in this country, in the United States, we have to kind of scratch our head to solve some interesting problem which has not been solved. But he said, in India, all that you have to do is get out of your home and kind of get into the street, and you have problems all over, right? There are so many problems waiting to be solved. I think if we start solving, and let me also tell you that, to be fair to my generation, it is not that we guys were so blind to Indian problems, simply because that country was much poorer. Remember that you people will laugh at me that when we all went to United States, we had precisely $12.50 in our pocket. That too with taking a permission from Reserve Bank of India, standing in a queue. Okay, so that was what we are. We are a sub-billion dollar, sub-trillion dollar economy. At least today we are 3.5, right? So we have kind of grown. Okay, and I'm sure that, so what happened was that when you build solutions, you are not sure whether people will be able to buy it, people will be able to pay for it, but those questions are all kind of answered well. So today you don't have to worry. So all that I want to request you is that there are lots and lots of problems which are kind of surrounding us, and keep finding a solution. You know, my friends in IIT Kanpur and others have done something amazing, right? You know, in a flat 100 days, they could actually make a full design to product of a ventilator. There's a story on that. There's a book on that. You can go and read. Okay. And even small things are getting addressed. But I think, you know, something which you should know. Okay. I think all of you take it for granted. There is something called rupee symbol. Rupee symbol did not exist 20 years back. There was a symbol for dollar. There's a symbol for pound, obviously. There's a symbol for yen. There's a symbol for even Chinese. But Indian rupee never had a symbol. It was during Dr. Manmohan Singh's time, we actually got the Indian rupee symbol. Otherwise, we were simply writing R and S, 2 letters, capital R and small s. Okay. But it means a lot, right? Because when you fill up a form, you find that you have symbol for everything else, but for your country, and you know, we are a big country, right? We are a country of billion plus people. So it is part of the pride. So when you see, and many of you today take it for granted, there is something called RuPay. RuPay did not exist until NPCI came. I'm very passionate about it because I was part of the founding team. And the world had only two, broadly speaking, Visa and MasterCard. And the third one was the fourth one. Okay. So there's a lot of pride associated because, you know, I think we need to create solutions for this country. If we can't create, who else will create? Okay. So that is part of it. Second thing is, it also makes lots and lots of business sense because we are now a country of billion people. We are getting to be affordable. Third, I think the startup ecosystem is very much in place. Great to see Madan, great to see SN. Okay. So lots of, okay. And last but not the least, don't worry too much about failure. And in fact, are likely to make much more of an impact rather than people who necessarily succeed. Because when you succeed, you see lots and lots of money, then you start kind of taking it easy. But when you fail, your fire in the belly is still strong. You keep doing more and more interesting stuff. Remember that however much money you have, you can only eat 3 meals a day, right? You can't meet 300 meals a day anyway, right? And you can't, at the same time, you can only be having one suit on you. You can't have 330,000 suits on you. So there is a point beyond which money has no value. Okay. But I think what is important for you is to look at this great opportunity you got. That is something which our generation did not get, but I think you got it. Make the best use of it. The entire ecosystem is there. Money is there, funding is there, markets are there. You have lots and lots of people to talk to. You have people like Madan through whom you can talk to. So they will tell you. And of course, you know, you can also kind of listen to some of us. You know, honestly speaking, I have not done nothing. I have done nothing in my life. I have only been watching so many of you succeed, and you people are nice enough to allow me to kind of look over your shoulders, out of which I form some general stuff and make it into a lecture, which hopefully makes sense. Okay. But I think my purpose is just this 25 minutes is to kind of share with you that a time has come. I think you genuinely represent the third generation. Knowledge creation is important, value creation is important, wealth creation is important. MNCs are important. I'm sure you should continue to think of opportunities of your brothers and sisters working for Googles are fine. But you should also think of, can you create, if not Google, something else that makes much more sense for this country? So can we do something in the healthcare? Can you do something in agriculture? You know, I don't want to get into details. So lots and lots of interesting things are happening, particularly in the last 5 to 10 years. Our own alumni, you know, you all know WhatsApp. There's something called WhatFix, happened to be created by our own alum, which is having half a $500 million market capitalization. So before closing, let me tell you, that you might hear lots and lots of things about unicorns. Unicorns are companies whose market value is $1 billion plus. Very important. We have created 50 of them in this country. I think it is remarkable. In this COVID-19 year, we could still create 50 unicorns. That's great. But what would make me happy? Can we create 50,000 nanocons? Okay, you could be 10 crores and 100 crores. You could make a difference to the local ecosystem, maybe a block, maybe a district, 10 crores, 20 crores, 50 crores, etc. And each one of you kind of creating such nanocons, I think this country will be a much better country to live, and we will become prosperous. And let me end with this quote. One of the CEOs of IBM who visited India, and we all having a small group chat, once he told me, he said, Sadagopan, you are lucky that you are leaving behind an India which is much better than the India into which you were born. But you have to ensure that the same thing is followed by the next generation. And in fact, my next generation of students have also made that one. But you people are all kind of starting up today. You are all in the early 20s. Okay. So I want you to keep this in your mind, that you should leave behind an India which is much better than what you inherited. The India you inherited is much better than the India in which I was born. But I think there is still opportunity, there is still possibility of you leaving behind a much better country, okay, when it is time for you to kind of log off. Okay, so thank you, and over to you, Karthik.
Thank you, sir. So I think some students are identified, but before that, Madan is here. Quickly, I mean, your 2 words. Madan, are you there? Madan was here. Okay, we'll come back.
No, maybe Manoj, okay, so Karthik, I do want to
Madan, are you there?
Some, yeah.
Yeah, Manoj, can we have the first participant talk?
Yeah, yes, Sushmita is ready to speak. Can I let her in?
Yeah, okay. Yes. Quickly, 60 seconds to 1 minute. Yes.
You can.
Hey,
once
Sushmita?
again, we can allow her to talk there. Okay. Yeah. Sushmita?
Hey, Sushmita?
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Yeah. Sir, firstly, thank you for this session because during my journey, whatever the idea I'm pursuing, I was able to relate a few sentences which I would like to mention. So initially, I would like to talk what problem we are trying to solve. So last year, when I was working with one of the Germany-based organizations, there we came across lack of transparency in the donation system, and that's where I found the market and I tried to research. So initially, my solution was just about crowdfunding and bringing in transparency in the crowdfunding. But as Sir rightly said, when I interacted with the actual end beneficiaries, so then my solution completely changed. So now what we are trying to do is not only just bring in transparency, but also sustainability in the donation system, meaning there is a lot of potential. So I'll just give you one example. So when I was interacting with a few of the tribes of India, that's where I came to know they do have identity crisis because they have leftover whatever used to symbolize them, such as forest vegetation and all. But during the COVID times, one such innovation named as Giloy, which is like famous for immunity booster, came through this tribe itself. So what solution we are providing is for such unique ideas, for such unique knowledge, we are giving a platform to crowdfund for such ideas, for such willpower, so that, as Sir has said, rightly termed, so that nanocons could be born. So basically, we would be crowdfunding. In this crowdfunding, we are bringing in transparency so that donor could track every single donated penny. And also the recipient who is receiving this crowd fund would be given skill and mentoring as well as collaboration support. Post that, Once their ideas are developed and products are made, we are also facilitating a marketplace wherein they could sell these products, so as to bring transparency as well as sustainability to the entire donation system. That's what we are trying to build right now.
Thank you, Sushmita.
Excellent, Sushmita. I think it's good. And remember that this kind of crowdsourcing funds, donation collection, etc., have again a huge potential, because right across, it need not, you see, there was a time when we are only thinking of getting food, but today, you could also look at other dimensions. It could be just getting computers for the kids. Okay, it need not necessarily be only food, because food is to a extent reasonably well addressed. Akshay Patra and others, you can really look at that. Can you get mentors? Actually speaking, this country now, the average age life expectancy has gone up. There are significantly number of people who are 50 plus to less than 90, okay, who are actually active. And if you could actually connect all of them as to mentor lots and lots of people, and none of them would even want to charge anything. They're available, but we just need a platform. So you could really look at those kind of solutions also. Thank you. All the best.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I think Madan had gone off, so just 30 seconds to you, Madan, if you're back. And then we are going to our next participant.
Sure, thank you. Good evening, Prof. As usual, an extremely motivating, passionate talk by you, and really appreciate it. I think that's something that I'm passionate about as well, that given the work in rural India, there's so many set of problems that can be solved by local entrepreneurs and local innovations. So keen to work with this group to figure out what innovations we can get to the local areas.
Hello.
Thank you, Madan. Thank you.
Manoj, over to the next participant. Thank you very much, Madan, and we will send you some of the pitches to you to mentor. Thank you.
The next person would be Shabin
Manoj?
Joseph. Yeah. Shabin Joseph, you can talk now.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yes, you are.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm Shabin Joseph, and I'm a second year BA CSC student. First of all, thank you, sir, for this insightful session. It was really great that how I understood how can we solve for India, your perspective towards the problem on how can we solve for India was great. And I mean, coming to my problem, so I mean, my problem statement. I mean, actually, I'm from Kerala, and when I came to Bangalore, one of the biggest issue which I found is air pollution. And I understood that for solving that, we should know how the air pollution is distributed, how it's what is the main issue of that. But the sad truth which is happening in our India is we are not having enough monitoring stations in our country, and even monitoring stations are very expensive, like 1.5 crore per stations. So my solution for this is we already have the public transports. So I am currently working on a prototype which can be implemented in the public transports, so we can get the air quality of each area which the public will, the bus will be going. So through this, it is very cheap as well as we'll be getting accurate data. Yeah, yes, sir.
Thank you, Shabin.
We really need solutions to address problems like air pollution, because they are really staring at our face in this country all over. Thank you. Thank you. And thanks for looking at a truly India problem which India needs. Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Manoj, can you have the third
Next
person?
entrepreneur. Yeah, next entrepreneur would be Abhinav. Abhinav, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm audible.
Yes,
Yes,
go
you
ahead.
are. Please go ahead.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity, and special thanks to the IIITB and sir for such an amazing session and such an amazing initiative for the young entrepreneurs. So what me and my team were looking after is nowadays the people been listening to the people once they grow up old, they send off their elderly parents to the orphanages and they don't care them. So that being case, we thought of why don't we care for them? So why don't we teach them tech? So our basic motto is to teach the elderly people the tech. So basically to guide them how to book an Ola cab. Initially we are trying to keep them on the ground with an handy book, which makes them much more connected, because they might be not so tech well versed. So later stages, what we are planning to do is try to get them on the Zoom platform, have an interactive sessions, and try to get them to the digitalized platforms where they can learn basic softwares like Google Pay, Phone Pay, Paytm, and they can use the digitalization current trend of India. That's it, sir.
Okay, excellent. And you see, which town are you based on? Bangalore?
Yes, sir. Bangalore itself.
Okay, so I'll connect you. You see that about, see, there was a gentleman, I forget his name, Shah was his last name, I forget the first name. He used to be the in charge of digital in India. So he's 70 plus. He has been doing some interesting work in this area, and I actually went and gave a talk. And about 5-6 years back, the biggest problem was that many of the elders are uncomfortable using online banking. So we used to kind of help them with this. I think, and then next year I went, they wanted help in choosing the right mobile phones, because there is so many options, So I think it is good. I think, see, what I would like you to do is get into a platform approach. So I think you should really look at a solution which can become a platform, because you still would need some amount of local handholding. If people can use it in different mohallas and different cities, and maybe for different things, and of course, you might also have to speak the local language, etc. So I think people have been attempting solutions, but if you can look at a platform, you will have a much larger impact.
Definitely, sir. Thank you,
Yeah.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Abhinav. The next participant would be Shankar. Shankar, can you hear us? You can unmute and talk.
Good evening, sir. It was a great talk from Professor Sadagopan, sir. I've personally been a fan of his work, especially like I've been reading some of his work, like on low-cost multimedia data management system from 1992. Maybe I was not born then, back then, but still like really revolutionary thoughts back then itself. So great to be in touch with you, sir. So we are working on, so the issue that we are trying to solve is, companies and startups suffer from poor communication. Poor communication costs over $37 billion annually. How we are trying to solve this is we have introduced a proposed brain-computer interface service that would sort of revolutionize the way we communicate through thought-based communication. So it would transform the communication cycle into effectively an instant process, making it jet speed and much more quicker than ever before. So we are trying to get through AI and BCI. We are trying to fuse these two approaches and sort of get to a solution which could solve this issue of communication.
Excellent. I think all the best. All the best. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Shankar. Next participant would be Rachna. Hello, Rachna. Can you hear us?
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, you are.
Rachna, you can talk. Rachna, sorry, you can talk.
Hello.
Yeah, Rachna, go ahead. Ask the question.
Yeah.
Sir is here.
First of all, I'd like to thank our college IIITB for conducting this startup bootcamp, because I've always wanted to get into entrepreneurship and know more about it. But finding ideas which have already not been implemented the way we want it, and just going out there and observing and yet finding great ideas is, I think, that is the major problem I'm facing right now. But I just had a small idea from just talking to my mother. She got into gardening a few years back, and now she has hundreds of pots and plants, and almost her entire day goes around in just watering and putting manure and all those stuff. So she said that she would really like if there was a system which could automatically detect the amount of moisture in the soil and water the plants at regular intervals. So and I realized after talking to a few people that this is a problem in almost every household which has a garden. So everyone wants their house to look beautiful and also have a few plants which are useful. So they do have gardens, but the problem nowadays is people are so busy that they do not have time to water them. So if such a system exists, then it will make it very easy for people to maintain their gardens. So that is why I thought of this idea, though it is in a very initial stage. Uh, I think this can work out.
Excellent. Thank you. Again, you are solving a relevant problem. Okay, it's good. And I think, if you make it well, that, there could be many more people who would take to rooftop garden.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you, Rachana. All the best. The next participant would be Neeraj. Hello, Neeraj. You can talk now.
A very good afternoon, everyone. I'm just trying to confirm if I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Right. Thank you. First of all, sir, it's a great privilege to talk to you and this entire audience. And also thanks to IIIT for such a short call to allow me to speak. So my idea revolves around the healthcare segment. More specifically, it is about rapid diagnosis of diseases, basically. And I'll just like to kind of give you a little bit brief. 5 years ago, it used to take about few days to detect a couple of diseases. Today, it takes roughly about a few hours. And 5 years hence, it is expected that it should only take only a few seconds, basically, for diagnosis multiple diseases. Now, coming to India specific, well, as you rightly pointed out, sir, India ranks second in the most populous country in the entire world. When it comes to GDP, we are ranked third in terms of purchasing power parity. But when it comes to health and detection of diseases and diagnosis, India ranks very poorly. So just to kind of quantify a few data, for every 1,15,000 people, there is one diagnostic center. And for every 2,35,000 people, they have access to only one PHC, that is a preliminary healthcare facility. So, taking into account all this, the only solution that is viable for India is to miniaturize laboratories onto chips, formerly called as lab-on-a-chip devices. Now, this concept has existed since quite some time, almost like 15, 20 years. But the commercialization of it has not been actually realized. Now, the problem that I've identified is that it actually takes a lot of money, time, and effort to even do R&D on such devices. So my solution is to rapidly prototype such devices using a novel method, which is a hybrid of two categories, wherein you reduce the time for prototyping from weeks that usually takes a minimum of 2 weeks. I'm reducing that to only a one single day. And additionally, it is going to be cost effective, because at the end of the day, to have a sustainable solution, it has to be cost effective. So that is what I'm trying to solve, sir.
Oh, excellent. I think go ahead and do talk to BIRAC. Just note it down, BIRAC. Okay.
Yes.
So they actually support many of these things, and particularly during the post-COVID time, I think many of these things are being looked at fresh. And wish you good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Neeraj. Good luck.
Okay. Karthik, you should watch the time.
Yes, sir. I'm looking. 51. We have a few questions also. I think the one last person, Pranav, and then we have 2-3 questions. So Pranav.
Sure.
Pranav.
Yeah.
Over to you, Pranav. You wanted to talk.
Am I audible, sir?
You are audible. Yes.
Namaste, sir. Sir, the solution that I want to pitch is with respect to societal enterprise. What we are seeing is nowadays there is migration from villages to metro cities looking for work. Sir, what my background is, I'm an engineer. Now I'm pursuing law, and I have some experience in intellectual property field. Sir, you would have heard intellectual property called geographical indication, GI. Nama Mysore silk sari, Channapatana toys, all these are GI products, sir. So specialty about GI is it's a community intellectual property. And I basically come from Udupi. Udupi itself has 3 GIs. One is Udupi Mattugulla, you would have heard. Another thing is Udupi Jasmine. Sir,
yes,
I have been done a exhaustive study based on what was the lifestyle or income with respect to each and every parameter of people or artisans or farmers who have been doing this before applying to GI and after applying to GI. There is an exponential growth which is unimaginable, because once one thing becomes intellectual property, it is recognized in a multiple different way. And another thing, sir, we have heard about Madhurvada, Agra Kapeta, etc. If you see, Indian culture and tradition is so exhaustive that everything is unique. But unfortunately, it is not preserved in such a way that once certain things becomes generic, they cannot be given GI. For example, Madhurvada. We all know it is special. But now in Madhurvada, if you go to Delhi also, in Delhi also, you will get Madhurvada. So it has been a generic GI. So, and sir, one more shocking fact is China, which has very low diversity, it has got 8,000 plus GIs. India, with so much of culture, heritage, tradition, it has only 362 registered GIs. Okay, sir, what I'm saying is, if we find spot potential GIs, help marginal educated farmers and artisans to file GI and get it granted, when it becomes a community intellectual property, it actually can be exploited commercially to make lives better. But sir, one thing that it's a shocking fact, that is people in Mandya, sir, where they have a belt of Kaveri River, which is so fertile for growing sugarcane. We know that the market is very fluctuating. Once the sugarcane price falls, they are not able to get back the money they have invested. So they are selling their fertile land. It's actually a black soil, and that Mandya sugarcane can become a GI. They are selling it, coming to Bangalore and driving cabs, which is very disheartening, sir. So I, coming from engineering and legal background, I am able to draft and file and prosecute geographical indications. So I actually want to help these people, and some, if possible, even generate revenue through tourism also. For example, you take Udupi, you take one small town in Udupi, file 5 GIs. So if you see the same thing without much, without explicit recognition, Mysore has become a GI hotspot throughout India. Mysore has 23 granted GIs. That is one of the indirect reasons that people are not, even though people are not seeing it directly, but if you observe indirectly, whoever comes to Mysore will go out with one of the souvenir of Mysore, maybe Mysore sari, or there are so many things. So I have noted down around 50 to 60 potential GIs which are not yet filed, and I want to help people by filing GI and helping them create a self-sustainable community. Once a GI is granted, or once people are able to do their first sales, then it is sustainable, sir. It is self-sustainable.
Yes.
Okay, Pranav, I think excellent. All that I would say is keep doing it, and then you should also do clone. I think we should be many clones of Manoj who should go around the country and create. Okay, so give you a target. You should create 1,000 GIs in the next 2 years.
Sure.
Yes, he's on.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we are out of time, right?
So there are about
Karthik?
5 questions. We can do 10 minutes if you permit, and then we close, sir. 8 minutes.
Okay.
So
yeah, make it.
The first question says about sustainable development goals, and they would like to know if these are being addressed as the way Taxi for Sure solved a very Indian problem, the Indian way. If all engineers can focus on solving sustainable development goals, address areas, it may help our next generation to be future ready.
Okay, so I 100% agreed. Okay, and in fact, now even the universities, there is one ranking which is based on sustainable development goals, and Amrita is kind of getting a top rank in that. Okay, so I think it is definitely something which is being addressed too. But what you should realize is there are many such things, and people are, different people take different approaches. Some people take this as a priority. Some people, it is not their first priority, maybe second or third priority. But nonetheless, it is being addressed. Okay, so you will see more and more of it. Thank you. Yes. Next question.
It says, the question is about acceptance of Indian solutions to Indian problems. Companies and individuals have this intention to try Indian developed solutions easily. They accept solutions from the West easily while resisting in-house solutions. Do you think this can be overcome, and how does it matter?
Okay, see, this used to be there much more, I would say maybe 20 years back. Okay, but it is becoming less and less because the world itself has kind of come around. It has become a global village, etc. Second thing is that what, at least in the IT industry, people smartly follow is that, because of the nature of the game, you will find many of the startups, okay, they will have one address in San Francisco, one address in Bangalore, okay? And that seems to be a tactical way of getting over this. But notwithstanding that, a large number of people today are happy to buy. And much more interesting stuff is, if the solution is from Bangalore, there are lots of country people who would actually buy it because it is from Bangalore. So Bangalore has also become a fashion, right? So I think don't worry too much about it. It is definitely there, but you see, many things you should not try to take headlong and fight. You kind of go around it, so you will find a solution. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think Kadim has dropped in. You were talking about WhatFix in the beginning, and Kadim Bhatti is here. So I may request Kadim to just say
Kadim,
hi.
Great to see you, Kadim. Great to see. Maybe Kadim, you should tell people what is WhatFix. Everybody should know, because a lot of people still don't know WhatFix.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Sorry for being late. I had some other urgent meeting. I couldn't join on time. So to add about WhatFix, it's an enterprise software platform. Basically, it helps companies to realize the potential of the software what they're deploying. So, for example, every employee today have to use 15-20 of the software packages to do their day-to-day job, right? And to ensure that they use them effectively, they need to know all the features. They need to know how to utilize them on a day-to-day basis. That's where WhatFix helps companies to, or helps the employees to actually utilize those features by providing them visual cues, which is real-time, interactive, like a GPS on the software. So it's a new category which is now coined as digital adoption solutions, and we are one of the leaders and pioneers globally. So far, we have raised $140 million in a few rounds of funding. 500 employees, close to 500 customers globally. 100 of Fortune 1000 companies are using WhatFix now. Yeah, so that's a quick overview.
Thank you. You have a compelling message. GPS for a product. Okay, that's good. Product usage. Yep. Okay, so thank you, Kadim.
Also, off late we also started calling WhatFix as a software coach, like how coach teaches players to be.
Okay, that's nice. That's nice.
Kadim spoke at our last boot camp and also had agreed to mentor a few. I know in your busy schedule, thank you for joining in and thank you for accepting to graciously mentor a few startups also.
Okay, so thanks, Kadim. Thanks for your help.
Thanks, sir.
Quickly, two more questions and we wrap up. What do you think about innovations not present in India yet, but are sure to come as India development?
Could you repeat it again?
It says, what do you think about innovations not present in India yet, but are sure to come in the future?
Okay, so I think they're welcome. So I think, go back to our Rigvedic statement, right? Ano Baddha Kratvo Yintu Vishwataha, right? Let anything good from anywhere in the planet come and benefit this country. No problem. Okay. Thank you.
Great. So, sir, definitely, next question says this, sir, definitely we have arrived, but somehow we feel it's a long way to go. How long maybe before we see products like Google, Twitter, Facebook, etc.? What are your thoughts on how the younger generation should go about it?
Okay, you see, once again, what you do is that don't necessarily start with the idea that we have to create a Google from India. Okay, so what happens is that you do something which is amazing, which adds immense value to the customers, and that is something which makes a difference to a good number of people. And then the product, okay, I think because you youngsters, you should know this interesting story. Many people still don't know that, it was not Google that actually made it big. It was Yahoo that actually created the search engine. There was a time when Google was not going anywhere. Yahoo was supposed to acquire Google. And Google wanted X amount of money. Yahoo was willing to pay Y amount of money. And then the person who was negotiating with both of them happens to be another person from this part of the country called Ram Sriram. Okay. And he could not convince them. So Yahoo did not buy Google, rest is history. Okay. So what I'm saying is that is how things, markets develop over a period of time. Okay. So don't necessarily run after. But I am convinced that something like that will happen very soon. It's not going to be too far. Already, as I mentioned at the beginning, that nobody, I don't think in my wildest dream I could think that three software companies, three software products coming out of one town called Bangalore would account for 50% of the global bank accounts. It's happened, right? So 16% for iFlex is not small. Okay. So I think things like that will happen. And I am convinced that you guys are much smarter than we guys. And with you taking the lead, it will happen sooner. Okay. So thank you and all the best. Over to you, Karthik.
The last question says, we see a lot of concentration of startups in tier 1 and tier 2 cities. Does location of a startup play an important aspect or be an important aspect?
Okay, you see, it is yes and no, because you see what happens is that when you are doing a startup, you also need to bounce off your ideas, talk to people, etc., etc. You can do a lot on the Zoom, phone, etc., but nothing like kind of meeting them over a cup of coffee, etc. Forget about COVID-19 when you are not doing it. Hopefully this will be behind. So what happens is the likelihood of you running into others is much higher in tier 1 and tier 2. Okay, that is the reason why it happens. But just before coming, I was part of IT Vision Group. Government is actually thinking of creating large number of smaller towns. How do you create these hubs, etc.? Maybe in the next 5 years it will happen. So if that happens, already thanks to one person called Desh Deshpande, if you're in Hubli, you are as connected as you are in Bangalore. Okay, Hubli is relatively small town. It is not even but nonetheless, it is much smaller than Mysore. But still, from an entrepreneurial point of view, Hubli is really vibrant. Okay, so I think that more and more of such vibrant clusters will get created. But until then, I think tier 1 and tier 2 towns will continue to have their advantage. Okay, so thank you, Karthik. Thank you all. Thanks for your patience. And thanks, Karthik, for giving me this opportunity. It was spontaneously decided yesterday morning, and I could make it today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
I was very keen on wanting to know what you people are doing. That is the reason I pretended to give a talk so that I can learn what you guys are doing.
Just 30 seconds. So I think Dr. Milind and YS also are here. Okay. Customary as closing remarks, 30 seconds each to Dr. Milind Gande and YSN.
Milind is there. Dr. Milind, how are you? Good.
Yes, sir. Milind, over to you.
So thank you so much, sir, for a very, very inspiring talk. This is, I do want to, you sort of mentioned it, but I think, the NEFT and UPI, that movement has really put India at the forefront of innovation in financial technology. And
yes.
We are today probably far ahead in digital finance than perhaps even the US, right? So
yes.
there's a lot there to take inspiration from. So thank you so much. This was really fascinating for me.
Thank you. Thank you. Another one is RTGS, which we got created. There are RTGS products elsewhere, but I think Indian RTGS is very different. So I think it's kind of nice.
Over to you, YSN, sir.
Hey, thank you, Karthik. Sir, as I keep on saying, every time I listen to you, every time I interact with you for the last 1 year that I've been on board, it has always been a experience for me to remember. It was extremely insightful. I'm quite sure the participants who are there as part of the program today would have benefited a lot, if not anything else, at least from understanding the importance of how they could really contribute to the growth of India's economy through their startups. So thank you very much for your time, sir. It was fantastic. And thank you all participants for joining in today. I hope you benefited from it, and we'll keep the communication lines open to see how best we could continue to build upon this. Thank you all once more.
Friends,
thank you. Great to see Milind. So hopefully we will have a cup of coffee soon, Milind. It's been missing for quite some time now.
Yes, I look forward to seeing you, sir, once again.
Thanks to all the students for accepting this.
Thank you.
Sir,
Thank you all.
Thank you very much for being there. And we have an exciting lineup. So please follow the website and please follow the updates on all our channels and, be there. In fact, sir, for Women's Day special, we are going to have Deputy Commissioner of Police Isha Pant is coming up this week.
Very nice, very nice, very nice.
Dynamic. And Meena Nagaraj also is going to talk. And a whole host of sessions are lined up. So please be there. And of course, yes, this is a certificate course also. And also for our other participants, we are at each stage they're going to go through a questionnaire, and then they're heading towards the certificate. Thank you. And
thank you. Thank you all. Bye.
Bye, sir.